Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Tulsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the At the Show podcast presented to you by the Sadistic Penguin Studios. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumpa Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my man?
Doing great. Ready to forget about it with you a little bit tonight.
Yes, to forget about it. Movie. I think it said like 142 times during this film. Probably the first time I've ever heard "forget about it" watching this film, but looking really, really excited to get into a film that I personally love that I think gets overlooked when they talk mob movies. It's a totally different take on the character of being a mobster played by Pacino, which is surprising because this is like right when Pacino was getting into his screaming phase. He does scream in this film, but not as much.
It's true.
But yeah, I'm really excited about this one, Tom.
It's gonna be a good one. Very excited. It is. My mom took me at age 13. We went and saw it at the movie theater, and since that time, it's in my top. It's in my top 10. And all day I've been thinking it's probably in my top 5 of movies like this movie. I like it a lot.
Yeah, definitely really, really good. Shout out to Beef Loaf. He never saw this movie. We did a mob movie, maybe our 6th episode, I believe it was, where we had him on.
I remember that.
And he never saw this one, which surprised the hell out of me. He said it wouldn't be in his top 5 mob movies, but he said it was really, really good.
Yeah.
But
it's a movie. I mean, before you jump in, it's a good rewatcher one, you know.
Oh yeah, I watched it a couple times actually because I enjoyed it so much.
Awesome.
But let's just go into the swing of things, my friend. I know we're on a different schedule today, and we want to get the ball rolling here. Let's go into what we've been watching this week.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what you been watching, Tone?
Ooh, I watched a couple movies here. First, what I watched was the Gambler remake film. Came out in 2014, starring Mark Wahlberg. It's John Goodman in it. It's got just a lot of I like these movies because they got a lot of little performances here and there, and it's I would try to watch some movies that kind of were playing along with what we were seeing, a little more under the radar. A lot of people don't enjoy this movie. Sometimes don't put it up as high as maybe I would. It's not my top 10 or anything, but I think it's a really good movie. I like the gentleman who's amazing, Michael.
Stake me 50 grand.
At 20 points.
Give him 50 grand.
Michael Kenneth Williams was an awesome actor, and it's another role where he just kind of is not in it a whole lot, but John Goodman's cool in this movie, and Mark Wahlberg I will always, because Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies, when he can get down and sleazy in any kind of role. He's got a lot of movies that I don't really enjoy that came out recently, but this is one that I do enjoy, The Gambler. You ever see this one?
Yes, one of my favorite parts of that movie is actually when John Goodman gives basically like the guidelines to buying a home.
Yes.
When he basically tells you how a waste of money is to purchase a house, just put money into something else, which I thought was hilarious. People will disagree with that, but it was just funny because John Goodman actually tells you that.
Back when I was collecting DVDs way back in like 2003, 2002, I came across the original with James Caan, which is equally, it's better than this one, but I like this one because actually there's some really cool reggae covers, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon songs in this. The soundtrack's actually really awesome and really good. And definitely one that maybe if you haven't seen it since it came out, give it another shot. I also watched one of probably in our top 3 movies me and Katie have watched together, is Killer Joe. I don't know if you've ever seen Killer Joe, but we probably quote this movie just as much as Roadhouse, and it's just such an odd movie to be quoting because as you're going to see here, which is just really crazy. The movie's rated at NC-17.
Listen, we gotta stop this.
A toast to my future wife.
My sister never did nothing to nobody. I can't let you have her.
The retainers for the money. I'm not leaving until I get my money.
Again, the trailer does not do this movie any justice because the trailer makes it seem like it's going to be some real serious, really like, oh my gosh, this is going to be just really a hard-boiled, when the reality is the movie is it's ridiculous in a lot of different aspects. I just really enjoy the movie because it's, again, the direction by William Friedkin, who you will be familiar with in so many movies as The French Connection and The Exorcist, all the way to Bug that came out right before this movie. But just a lot. Thomas Hayden Church is great in this movie. Emile Hirsch, Juno Temple, Gina Gershon. Another one that slips under the radar that I enjoy a lot. You ever see Killer Joe?
No. When you played that trailer, it kind of reminded me of a little bit of Frailty.
Oh, yeah. You know what I'm going to do for you right now? Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just like Frailty. I can't wait for you to see it and you get back to me. No, it's the trailer, that trailer, which is really great because like what I wanted to show is like if you see the trailer, you just listen to it. It's like, oh, you're going to get into this hard-boiled movie. Like I said, it's going to be serious. When the reality is it's like they call it, if you look a lot deeper into like some of the reviews, it's like call it a trailer park murder mystery, which not to say anything's bad with trailer parks, but there's just this like hills have eyes going on underneath it where really the idea is Emile Hirsch real quickly needs to hire a hitman to come and take somebody out, and he hires Matthew McConaughey, who isn't live in this neighborhood at all. He just kind of like shows up in the town like a cowboy, which is what makes the movie great because all the characters in which he runs into are just nobody that's pretty much any cool. But Matthew McConaughey's got some great lines in it, and I enjoy it because again, it's written by like I said, directed by Killer Joe, which is awesome, and written by Tracy Letts. If you're not familiar with who Tracy Letts is, an awesome actor, shows up on a lot of shows. He also wrote Bug, but check it out. What have you been watching, Yep?
Oh man, I don't know if I can compete with Killer Joe there, but I go ahead.
Okay, real quick before we move on, because a long time ago, about 8-9 years ago, I was working somewhere and I suggested it to a coworker and he watched it with his wife. He came back at me and he screamed at me and said, how dare I ever give him a movie so vulgar to play with his wife? So, so like, again, it's rated NC-17. Take that in. This movie is no indication of like who I am, but it's just really a great fun ride. And I'm really curious if you see this movie, what your opinion would be.
I'll look for it to check it out.
Please do.
I went the Predator route. I've been kind of watching the Predator movies while I work and while I do other things. Yesterday I had a lot of time to watch movies, unfortunately, but I watched Predators again, and it's the 2010 sequel to Predators, and I think this is a sequel that kind of gets overlooked a little bit. I think it's probably one of the better Predator sequels, considering it had Alien vs. Predator and then Alien vs. Predator Requiem and The Predator that came on after this. It's with Adrian Brody, Lawrence Fishburne, Topher Grace is in this, Walter Goggins is in this, Danny Trejo, Marshala Ali's in it, the Oscar winner Marshala Ali. Just all-star cast and a decent horror movie. I like the premise of them all going to the island, basically the planet, being, hunted for game there instead of them doing it here. I thought it was a nice little interesting concept. I don't know if I can see Adrian Brody as being a badass like he is in the film. If I can buy that, but I really enjoyed this one. Have you seen this one?
Oh yeah, I will. I will put it as probably my third favorite Predator movie, followed by 1 and 2. So like in a row, 1, 2, and then this one. But again, or 2, 1 in this one. But that being said, this movie is really good. I was real excited, of course, as soon as I saw Robert Rodriguez was involved with
Mm-hmm.
the making of the movie. Had a huge expectations though going into the movie theater. I did, and when I walked out, I'm not going to say that I felt like it lived up to my expectations. I will also say I was a little disappointed. But the more I watch it, after our last episode, I also have been digging into the Predator movies because we had such a great conversation a couple episodes ago. I rewatched this movie recently too. I do like Adrian Brody in quite a couple roles, and he does a good job in this movie along with everybody else you mentioned. It's a good movie.
Yeah, a decent sequel, not the best, but decent. Fallen Library. And I watched a movie that I wrote a blog on. That I just was watching it to kill time during work, and it was probably one of the most ridiculous films I've seen ever. It's a film that I remember discovering at Masterpiece Video back in the early '90s when I was a kid. Masterpiece Video was a rental store that me and my brother went to a lot. It was called Dark Angel then, but its name got changed to I Come in Peace, and it's a Dolph Lundgren vehicle. When they were trying to make Dolph a superstar action star, he did Rocky 4, he did Masters of the Universe, he did The Punisher. And then, they were trying to give him more vehicles to do, and this is just like a totally early '90s with '80s vibe alien film where alien comes to Earth and basically takes morphine, puts it in your body, and takes your basically emotions and adrenaline out of your body, to sell on the black market. And the alien who plays him is fucking gigantic. I think his name is Matthias Hughes, I think his name is. He's gigantic, and his line is, "I come in peace." That's pretty much all he says before he kills you, which it's very corny, very '80s. If you like '80s bad action movies, this is probably right up your alley. Have you seen this one, Tone?
Oh yeah. Of course, back in that 12, 13-year-old time period. It's this, The Punisher, you named Master. I was big He-Man. I still have my action figures, so of course, seeing He-Man. I liked it a lot back then, but honestly, you brought it back up to me, and I haven't seen it since way back then. But back then, as that young kid watching this movie, I thought it was awesome. I thought Dolph was awesome. Also liked another actor around this time named Brian Bosworth, the football player. He did this movie called Stone Cold. But around the same time, Dolph Lundgren, though, it was just great in this movie. And I'll have to rewatch it again because I'm sure with my new, view of since I've seen movies, this definitely is going to be a good one to rewatch.
Yeah, definitely. Not a time waster. It's hilarious. I wrote a quick blog on it, just describing how like silly it is, but how silly bad it is. Check it out at the statisticpenguinstudios.com blogspot there. I do love Brian's comment here. He said he saw an Instagram reel today on Rocky 4. Had no idea Dolph hurt Stallone really bad because Sly told him to fuck the choreography and punch him for real.
Ooh.
Yeah, Stallone's known for that. He actually got in the ring with Joe Frazier for Rocky 1 to see if Frazier could play Apollo Creed, and Frazier started beating the shit out of him, and he's realized he couldn't do this. Couldn't do the real punches. Also, Dolph's a legit badass. He's a black belt in several martial arts, and he's also a genius. He's part of Mensa, if I'm not mistaken.
Shout out to the other actor in this movie that with Dolph and the bad guy. His name is Brian Benben. He is married to one Madeline Stowe, who I think is awesome, an 80s actress. But also, that being said, he had this television show that would come on after Tales from the Crypt called Dream On. And honestly, if you want to know right now, something that would give me goosebumps is if I could just watch one episode of that, because it's been such a long time. Because as a what's his name was on there too from Spinal Tap, Michael McKean was his friend on the show. That's where I got my introduction to Michael McKean. But then again, I really want to watch the show. So when you brought this movie to my attention and I saw Brian Benben, Dream On came to my head. So you're not going to get that in any other podcast. Dream On being brought to your head by I Come in Peace. Like, we're talking about some classics here.
Yeah, and they shoot off the Nintendo NES guns in this film.
Yes.
But that's what we've been watching. Let us know what you've been watching over at the Pod Show on the Twitters, or you can let us know on Instagram or on Facebook. But before we go in, Brian, Brian, I was reading Brian's name. Before we go in, Tone, I want to let everybody know that we are running a raffle. Before we get deep into the show, our raffle actually deals with the game Elder Ring. If you know, Elder Ring has a new DLC out. I believe it's $35. If you ever thought about picking up the game and didn't want to pay $60 for the game and then another $35 for the DLC, we got you. So what we got is a free copy of Elder Ring for the PC. All you have to do is go to our Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Statistic Penguin Studios, or at Penguin Statistic on Twitter, or at Statistic Penguin Studios on Facebook, or at the show Pod on Instagram, and just subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching live and you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Snap a shot of that and either DM us or send it to us on the posts that are there. They're all posted, they're all pinned, and all you gotta do is enter there. We'll do a raffle on July 3rd. The first, and then I'll email or I'll DM the person that wins with a Steam code because it's for the PC. And it's a free game. I've been playing it. It's hard as hell, but it's a lot really, really fun. Have you played this game, Tone? Oh, you froze. Okay. So Tony is frozen in time. So I'm guessing the Elder Ring got him. But yeah, it's a great game to play. If you haven't played it, check it out. I think it's sold over 50 million for the regular version, and it's sold over 10 million, I believe, for the DLC so far. So we will be checking that out. Well, I'll be checking it out when I get to it. It's a very, very hard game, though. But if you want a free copy, just follow the instructions there. I'll put a link in the video description. And for those listening on the podcast, just check us out at Statistic Penguin Studios on Twitter. There's actually a tweet with it on there. But with that, I'm going to go into our.
I'm back.
Yeah, that's all good. I was just in the middle of the thing. We're going to go into our meat and potatoes. We're going to go into what we come to talk about, and that is Donnie Brasco, a 1997 film. Now, Tone, when was the first time you saw Donnie Brasco?
Oh, 13, 14 years old at the River Oaks movie theater. It was playing, and I remember, again, this is right around, a couple years before the Casinos, the Heats, in which I had seen right around the same time. Goodfellas. So as soon as Pacino, man, I'm watching everything from Pacino. Everything that came out for Pacino from pretty much 95 to 2001 at the theater I saw, even the bad stuff like The Recruit with Colin Farrell. No, I'm kidding. But this just really good time. How about you?
The first time I saw this was actually, I believe my dad had rented it from the video store when it had just come out in 98. And I fell in love with it. Just the look of it, the different. I just got into the Godfather series. We had the VHS of the box set, which is like 4 different movies due to the length. I got into that, and then I watched this film, and I loved it automatically. It developed my love for Johnny Depp in terms of his acting. It really got me on like the Johnny Depp train for like how much I like his acting.
Just honestly, and that's the same thing with him, which I don't know if we'll touch on later, but this was a good golden period for Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
Another great movie that I like around this time with him, and of course he did lots of them with Tim Burton, but I really like Ed Wood. He's got this movie called Dead Man that's really good in black and white. Just a lot of cool things Johnny Depp was doing at this time period, I think, in his career.
Yeah, I think, at this time is when he started to branch out into his own little thing. Like you said, he had, the Tim Burton movies, Edward Scissorhands. He had Cry Baby. He was in Platoon, which I remember him in, but he didn't really have a big role in that. He was kind of getting out of his teeny bopper stage of 21 Jump Street, and then he started doing these films. Benny and June's another film I really liked him in. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? That was before this. Those films kind of got him. He's kind of going that nice little trajectory. And this, I believe, is right after Nick of Time that he did, and Divine Rapture. Yeah, which is some good films too. Or after this, he would do The Brave and then Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is another great film. But yeah, Johnny Depp's another underrated actor. Everybody thinks he's weird, which he definitely is. But his acting skills are, pretty well good. He should have won an Oscar for Crybaby. Yeah. Uh, he was nominated for Captain Jack Sparrow, so I mean, it's not out of the question.
What's cool about Johnny Depp is he in the acting world is he can play movies like this, and I love Blow. Like I love
Mhm.
those type of gangster type of movies, and he can play those. But you also said like Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. You can watch all three of those back to back to back. Like he's a cool actor. I
Yeah,
don't know
and
about recently movies. Nothing has struck my fancy. I'd say in the last 10 years probably.
I
But
think he's kind of in a rut, but, like, just playing different
Black
types of
Mass though,
roles.
I love Black Mass, so I
Yeah,
will vouch for that. But yeah,
but even he's not even a stranger to the horror genre. He was in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. One of my favorite films from the Stephen King, adapted films, short stories is Secret Window with him.
That's a
Um,
good
yeah,
movie.
he did it's just he's in the good realm of good, films like that. So he's talented. Weird, but talented. Uh, but Tone, let's get into this, development of this one and get into the meat and potatoes of this, yeah?
Let's do it.
In my thoughts, I use the technique of positive visualization.
So the film is based off the real life Joseph D. Pistone. Now, as you can tell, Joseph P. Pistone's real name that's his real name, but his moniker and his alias was Johnny Brasco. So this is a picture of him when he was undercover with his big old mustache and his 1970s glasses. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you are listening to us on audio, I'm sorry, switch over to the YouTube and you can check it out. But it's probably a picture you've seen, most common picture known for Donnie when he was undercover. Pistone's initial assignment was supposed to be 6 months when he infiltrated the mob, and it actually lasted closer to 5 years. He was posing as a jewel thief and slowly integrated himself with the Bonanno family. He was introduced to low-level mobsters and gradually earned their trust, eventually getting close to high-ranking members. One of the key contacts was Benjamin Lefty Ruggiero, who in this film will be played by Al Pacino. And he was a soldier in the Bonanno family, and he's well known for his friendship again with FBI undercover agent Donnie Brasco, which is Joseph Pistone. Lefty was an old school Cosa Nostra mobster who knew how mafia politics worked. He allegedly murdered around 26 people and refused to break omerta. And when arrested in 1992, suffering from lung and testicular cancer, he was released from prison after serving 11 years. On November 24th, 1994, he passed away of lung cancer at the age of 68. Now, for those watching on the YouTube, you can see that Pacino, I think, is a like dead ringer for the way he looks. Tone, I don't know if you agree with me. He actually played the role very, very well. When we get to casting, I'll go into a little bit more of his styling, but I thought he was a good little choice to play for this film. And he does an excellent job. So Pistone got close to him, and as well, Pistone also got close to Dominic Sonny Black Napolitano. I think it's how you say it. Napolitano. I don't know how you say it, Tone. You're Italian.
Napolitano. There you go.
Okay, Napolitano. Sonny Black was actually played by Michael Madsen in the film. Sonny Black was a compo in the Bonanno family. He is well known for unwittingly allowing the FBI agent Joseph D. Pistone to become an associate in the crew and nearly getting him made. On August 17th, he was summoned to a meeting in the basement by a Bonanno associate Ron Flamacomo's home in Flatlands, Brooklyn, knowing that he would be killed. So this is who is the boss of Donnie and Lefty. He was also an integral part of these investigations that Donnie Brasco had brought towards the mob. Living a double life was fraught with danger. Pistone had to maintain his cover at all times, facing the constant threat of being discovered. If his true identity was ever revealed, it would likely result in immediate execution. The mob doesn't like rats, and they don't like cops for that say. But especially if you're infiltrating them, they don't like it at all. The operation was so deep that Pistone was even considered for mafia membership, as we mentioned, which would have obligated him to commit murder, or as they say, make your bones. The evidence collected by Pistone led to over 200 and more than 100 convictions, with 200 indictments, significantly crippling the Bonanno family and other mafia organizations. The operation's success highlighted the effectiveness of long-term undercover work in tackling organized crime. So why am I telling you all this? Well, Pistone, when he got done doing this, he actually would go on to write a book with co-author Richard Woodley titled Donnie Brasco: My Undercover Life in the Mafia. And when he did so, one of his childhood friends, who was a casting director named Louis DiGiamo, actually went and bought the film rights. He had been a consultant for the book and saw the potential for a film adaptation. He was also close to Barry Livingston's Baltimore Pictures. He was associated with them, and with Mark Johnson and Gail Muncher as producers, he sold the project to them, and they add in Paul Atancio was hired to write the screenplay. As you can tell, I'm in name pronouncing galore right here. Top form. Stephen Freeze was actually originally signed on to be the director. The development, however, Donnie Brasco saw several directors being considered to before Mike Newell was actually chosen. Basically, the film was being considered in the 80s. Now, there was another great 1990s mob film that came out, and probably some consider the greatest mob film of all time, besides The Godfather. What do you think that is, Tone?
Ooh, I'm gonna take a running guess and say Goodfellas.
Yes, Goodfellas. Goodfellas was released in 1990, and when they had this film out, a lot of studios were kind of like iffy, especially Baltimore Pictures iffy about making because they didn't want to make another Goodfellas ripoff. They kind of felt like that was kind of the top standard, didn't want to rip it off. So they kind of put this in developmental hell. Frears actually became upset with this and basically left the project to where they actually had to go to Mike Newell, was hired after his hit film Four Weddings and a Funeral. Frears actually, before he left, wanted to have Al Pacino in the lead role for this film. Newell, when he took over, wanted to keep Pacino on for the casting. So we have our director now. Our film is actually being set to maybe made finally in the mid 90s. And now we're going to go into our casting here. And for the role of Lefty, like I said, Al Pacino was considered to be involved in this project from the beginning. He was originally supposed to be playing Donnie, but he decided that he wanted to play Lefty, and he recommended another young actor by the name of Johnny Depp to play Donnie. Pacino had quit smoking by the time this film began, and if you watch this film, he smokes a shitload. So he smoked herbal cigarettes, and Mike Newell, the director, said they smelled very, very bad. Uh, Another thing too for Pacino was he picked his own outfit and he picked his own way he wanted to look in the film. And I think as I throw up this picture again, he did an excellent job. He picked his own glasses out, his own suits that he wanted to wear that he believed Lefty would wear. And from what I was reading and listening to, Pistones went on several podcasts and interviews saying that Pacino had got the look and feel of Lefty very, very well. Like he got down to the point where he's like, he played Lefty like Lefty wanted to be played. The only thing that Pacino did that Pistone did not like was that Pacino really wanted to wear a hat, and Donnie said basically Lefty never really wore hats, but he wanted to include it. Lefty was always known for having slick black hair, and he said that he never really wore hats. And there was a couple pictures of him with the hat. He said, yeah, that was the only thing that Pacino did not do in his eyes. Then we're going to go on to the role of Donnie Brasco. Now, Alec Baldwin was considered for the role. Nicolas Cage was considered for this role. And John Cusack was considered for the role of Donnie Brasco. At various points, Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and one that I thought was a very interesting name was Andy Garcia were attached to star. This, of course, was when Stephen Frears was actually directing, but I wonder how Garcia would have done in this role.
Garcia would have done awesome. I mean, honestly, I could even see, because of his time period, he was doing really good movies too. I could see Cage pulling it off. Everyone else, no. But them two, especially Andy Garcia, who we love here at the show, would have definitely done an amazing job. But that being said, it's cool to think about those things.
Yeah, definitely. According to the screenwriter, Johnny Depp's 1994 arrest for destroying a hotel room helped him get cast. People thought he was dark and dangerous. I guess Edward Scissorhands didn't help with that. I guess he had to destroy a hotel room. One of the reasons why Johnny Depp was cast as Brasco was that he looked Italian. In reality, Depp has gone on record saying he's one part Cherokee and the rest mutt. Johnny Depp spent months with the real Joe D. Pistone before shooting. Most of the time, they lifted weights together, so they were really bonding. They should let Robert Lagosha play every role. Yes, L for Lagosha.
You don't like Scarface, but he's great in Scarface.
Yeah, he plays a Latino though.
Well,
Frank Lopez.
It's still a good role. Johnny Depp's playing an Italian. I don't like this movie.
Nah, I just giving it shit.
I know. I'm being silly too.
For the role of Nicky Santoro, we had the great Joe Pesci was actually considered for the role by Mike Newell. When the project was in its first stages, Joe Pesci was the first and main choice for Nicky. But after the release of Goodfellas and Casino, the idea gradually faded. As you can see, we're kind of getting like that mob fatigue right now with the films, which is probably why this film doesn't get recognized like it should. Eventually, they went and they hired another great character actor who unfortunately isn't with us anymore, and that's Bruno Kirby was hired for the role. And this is actually the second film where Joe Pesci was considered for a role that eventually went to Bruno Kirby. Can you name it? The other one, Tom?
Say that again. What was I missed? You said which role? Al Pacino for Bruno
Yeah,
Kirby?
no, this is the second film that.
Oh yes,
Joe
yes,
Pesci
it's The Godfather Part 2.
Yes, so The Godfather Part 2 was a role that was considered.
Funny is I didn't hear the
Joe
question,
Pesci.
and I put it all together right there. That's how good it is.
Yeah, so Joe Pesci was supposed to be Clemenza and young Clemenza, and when he didn't get the role, they actually gave it to Bruno Kirby. Then we have James Russo as Paulie, or John Booby Sarancy, which is his name in the film. We have Anne Heche as Maggie Pistone. Pistone has gone on record saying that he wishes the film had more Anne Heche in it, and I thought she did a great job in it. Jeljenko Ivanik as Tim Curley, Gary Becker as Dean Bradford of the FBI, Robert Miliano as Sonny Red, Brian Tarantina as Bruno Indelcato, which is Sonny Red's son. And that's our cast. I could have named another 15 people, but they're not. They have such small roles, you're probably not going to care about it. But the great Tony Lip actually played a role in this film as well as one of the henchmen for Sonny Black, which I thought was pretty cool because Tony Lip will go on to play Carmine from The Sopranos for those Sopranos fans out there. Real life associate of the mob too. But that's basically our cast. Tone. We have our cast. We have our director. We found out how the film was developed in terms of because it was based on a real life story. Of course, this is Hollywood, so some things are going to be taken out of perspective for more dramatic effect. But we have a film here, and you ready to get into the film breakdown?
Yes, right before we get into it, and sadly, we lost Bruno Kirby back in 2006, and honestly, Bruno Kirby is a really actually awesome actor. I really like this movie, which also has mob ties. It's from the middle of the it's from the 80s. It's called 1990 actually, The Freshman.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to bring up is another one of my favorite movies in which is Stand By Me. You've seen Stand By Me, right?
Yeah.
There's a scene where Gordy goes to the market and has a conversation with the guy who's like selling him the stuff before he goes back to his friends. And I didn't realize that that's actually Bruno Kirby, Bruce Kirby, his dad. I didn't realize that this was an acting family until, multi years later. I've seen this movie multiple times, but it's just really cool that Bruno Kirby was in this movie. Just thought I'd say that.
Yeah, I really liked Bruno Kirby. I liked him a lot in this film. Of course, I also liked him in Sleepers. He played the dad to the boys, Sleepers. City Slickers, of course.
Unfortunately, he's not a good person in the movie, but have you ever seen the Basketball Diaries?
Yes. He's also the blunt of all of Robert Williams' jokes in Good Morning Vietnam.
That is true. That is
the Basketball Diaries.
Really cool too. Again, just hearing all those different roles. I mean, City Slickers is great.
When Harry Met Sally, it's another one. Good job, Brian. Good one, Brian. But yeah, Bruno, great actor. Unfortunately, passed way too young of cancer. But yeah, Tony, you ready to get into this film breakdown?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into this film breakdown.
See the arc? He starts down here. He ends up here.
Where's my art, Paulie?
Goes 6 years undercover. Live every day of his life looking in the mirror thinking, is today the day, you know, they're gonna croak me.
Whack.
Yeah, whack. Whack being the proper word.
Man, he had real short hair there. The great Johnny Depp. The film opens, I probably in one of my favorite opening montages of any film I've ever seen. They basically close in view of Johnny Depp's eyes or Joe T. Pistone's eyes with a violin playing in the background. It's all in black and white. You see pictures of the investigation, some real from the real Donnie Brasco investigation and some from the film, with just like little scenes of like the main characters. You see it's basically through the eyes of the man that's undercover in Donnie Brasco. When the film begins, Pistone is already undercover as Donnie Brasco. In real life, he actually been attempting to infiltrate the Colombo family, but wasn't having any success. Unlike an early scene in the movie where he first meets Lefty, who wants some jewelry appraised, Donnie actually met Lefty and other Bonanno family associates through mutual contacts and was invited by Lefty to join the Bonannos. Tony Mira was actually the person that introduced him to the Bonanno family, and he was actually began to interact with the Colombos with Jilly Greca.
Sorry.
It's okay. Before he was introduced to the Bonannos by Tony Mira. The opening scene always cracks me up because you had them arguing over which is better, a Lincoln or a Cadillac.
I'm saying it. A Lincoln is better than a Cadillac. It's a better automobile.
Forget about it. Cadillac got more acceleration. It's got more power. It's got better handling. It's got what? It's got more leg room for your legs. It's got more power.
You just said that. Bingo.
What is it?
Lefty just seems to ramble on like I do when I do these podcasts sometimes, just repeating himself. It's got more power, just like his whole accent, Pacino's accent in the film. I love the dynamic between Kirby, Pacino, and the other guy who plays James Russo, who plays Paulie. I really, really love that the whole, the whole dynamic they have. And Brian says in Pacino voice, that Cadillac's got a great ass. But yeah, just that whole little transition of like dialogue there. What'd you think about that, Tom?
A great dialogue. I like Pacino playing a role he's usually more of the alpha in the movie. This movie, he's more of like when they're making fun of him and stuff like that. He's not the top like guy, which is I think that's what makes the role actually an awesome Pacino role.
Yeah, and then we cut to Donnie walking out of the bar. Pacino's asking Kirby about him. Nicky in the film, he's asking him about him, which he finds out who he is. And then we see kind of like a little inside look at what Donnie Brasco does. He works out a lot. And then he calls, his family. And Pistone mentioned that the film didn't accurately portray the loneliness and isolation he experienced while undercover. The movie gives an impression that Pistone will go home to his family whenever he wanted, which was far from the truth. In reality, Pistone spent long periods away from his family, which was a significant personal sacrifice not fully captured in the film. And that's kind of shown where he's like going to see his family and whatnot. Like in the opening scene in the movie, he actually calls his wife on the phone, and Pistone said that he rarely talks to his family, which is understandable because you don't never know who's watching you, one, and you never want to get those people that you love in trouble. So it's kind of weird they showed it in the film, but I'm guessing they're doing that for dramatic effect, Tone.
Yeah, I mean, you again, like Johnny Depp. That's what's cool. Johnny Depp's a cool guy. I don't know if at this time period he can portray that. He could have maybe in the script if the script called for it, but that's why I think just the way they did it worked well. To imagine Johnny Depp and going even more. There's a scene we'll talk about later at the Christmas tree. That's one of my favorites, but we'll get to that later. But but then again, I'm always for more too to see it. Like I love Apocalypse Now, but then I also love when they did the Apocalypse Now Redux to see it in there to see if it looks different. Now that you say it in live time, I would check it out.
Yeah. So after we see a little montage of Donnie working out, showing that he calls his wife, we cut back into the actual bar that Donnie hangs out at, and we first get the first interaction of Donnie and the character of Lefty. Now, Lefty is trying to give Donnie a ring that one of the people that owe him money, basically, gave him as a payment, and he tells Donnie if he can maybe fence it for him, which Donnie looks at and calls it a fugazi, which Lefty does not like at all.
You want to go embarrass yourself with this thing? Embarrass myself. My family, my children, my mother can hold her head up in any neighborhood in this city when she walks down the block. See, in all the 5 boroughs, I'm known. Forget about it. I'm known all over the fucking world. Anybody ask anybody about Lefty from Mulberry Street.
Pacino loved being able to use all the rich mafia slang throughout the film. The writers say he captured mob dialect accurately because he had Joseph D. Pistone's wiretapes. So the wiretapes that Pistone had, the writers actually grabbed dialect from there, which I think is pretty crazy. If you actually bought this film, I think maybe 10 years ago, it used to come with a DVD that actually had recordings of Lefty and Jody Pistone, which is actually pretty cool. His books now actually come with them. I don't know, the digital books might come with more of an easier, copy of it because CD players aren't really in the norm anymore. But just having that is awesome. A fugazi. Yes, a fugazi. So we have, early in the film, they say the fugazi. Basically, he tells them it's fake. Lefty says, "Well, prove it to me." They drive over to this guy's place to see if he's lying or not. And I think the drive over to him is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie too, because Lefty is smoking up a damn storm, and you see him open up the windows to say, and you hear Lefty scream, "Shut the damn windows! You trying to give me a draft?" He's like, "I'm dying of cancer over here." The whole dialogue I love between Pacino and Depp during this whole, transition to the guy's place is because Pacino says stuff, but he really doesn't say it, if you know what I mean. He makes uh, Johnny Depp answer like his questions for him. Like he says, "There's a lot of money in that, huh?" He goes, "What? Jewels?" And he goes, "Thank you." Basically making sure that he's the one answering, not Lefty, in case he is wired up. Uh, they go over to this guy's place to where the guy actually gets intimidated not by Lefty, but by Donnie, to where Donnie tells him, "I gotta do something to fix this whole situation or he's gonna kill you." And the guy goes, "Oh, I don't wanna die." And he starts beating the shit out of him and basically takes his Porsche as Lefty for payment because they find out that guy was giving him a real fugazi. Now, I actually read Pistone's books, and when he mentions this scene actually in his book, and he said that sometimes he had to lace a beating on people. Reason being he did it was because he said, "I always felt it was better if I beat the hell out of you. Me doing it, I can go easy on you. While if the other guys did it, they could probably kill you or beat you to where you can't function anymore." He goes, "So it's either you're getting beat up by a jeweler than those guys." And sometimes he would be the guy to lay down the beatings, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of the scene later in the restaurant, which we'll talk about, that definitely plays into it. Like, you gotta, if you're the acting. So, I mean, honestly, you're the one who can act the punch, WWE style, I guess.
Yeah. And on their way back, Lefty is impressed with this. They talk with this to the first instance we hear about Forget About It, where they go over their cars. We see, the transition to that Stone has made contact with a mob associate in Lefty Ruggiero. And we see the printout, the typewriter print, which I thought this transition to in the films were awesome, where they had kind of showing what's going on while they type out the reports.
Mhm.
And it's this one always cracked me up because it says that Jody Pistone has made contact with one Lefty Ruggiero, and it lists all Lefty's nicknames. And it's Lefty two-hand guns, Lefty half cock, Lefty horse cock, which always cracked me up because I'm like, what the fuck?
What is that?
Yeah. Eventually, they transition to Donnie actually getting talking to by Jilly and Lefty. Jilly is actually a person that knew Donnie first. And in the mob, if you don't know, if you have to be vouched for by somebody to be basically, integrated into that group, and they always do background checks on you. Even back then, they try to see who you know, and that's basically who he was working for was Jilly, who told Lefty, I said I knew him, Left. I didn't fuck him, which always makes me laugh. To where Lefty is satisfied and then brings him around the crew. And when they go meet up the crew, they're all standing outside waiting for the boss to show up. And we have some main characters that will play later into the film show up. One of them being Sonny Red.
Who's this guy? This is Donnie, a friend of mine.
We'll just stand there and look dangerous, friend.
Oh, he does look dangerous, Donnie. You gonna make this week's vig? I hope so. Because I don't have to come looking for you. You hear me? Come on, Bruno. I just shit my pants, man.
That part always makes me laugh too, with how Lefty tried to kind of be a badass, and then Sonny Red just basically put him in his place, telling him, "Are you gonna make your vig?" For those who don't know, Lefty did so many hits for the mob. He always mentions it in the film, but he did so much work for the mob. They wanted him to be a full made member, but he owed so much money to the mob. He could not be a made man until he paid him off. He was a degenerate gambler, and this is Lefty being a member, like associate with them for over like tens decades before he became a mob member, and that was in the 70s, shortly before he met Joe Pistone as Donnie Brasco, which kind of sucks for Lefty because he finally got made and he met Donnie. But it's just crazy how he's a tortured soul in this film. I think Pacino plays him very, very well. Tom.
I mean, I just that's what I think about is exactly what you just said. He's tortured. He isn't the top guy, but he like kind of trying to act like that to Donnie. It would be like if I got made fun of by anybody, but then like I brought you around, but I try to be like tough to you because you don't really know who I am. But then you could see me around everyone else. You're like, wait a minute here. I mean, he's a vulnerable guy in the movie, it's great. I mean, not great for him to be vulnerable, but a great character role.
Yeah, and Lefty is constantly giving like this mentor role to Donnie. He's showing him, the ropes, and he tells him the mob rules.
When I introduce you, I'm gonna say, this is a friend of mine. That means you're a connected guy. Now, if I said instead, this is a friend of ours, that would mean you were a made guy. A capiche?
Yeah, friend of mine, friend of ours. What do I call you? Friend of ours?
Keep your fucking mouth shut about me. Don't say that.
Yeah. And if you ever listen to the tapes, that's actually how Lefty talked. Like, there's tapes of him and Donnie Brasco going back and forth, and Lefty actually has like this is the way he talked. It's hilarious. But after that meeting we have now, this is the first look into Donnie going after a few months over to Lefty's house for Christmas, and we learn that Lefty's son is a drug addict. But beforehand, Lefty makes him stay because Donnie tells a story that he used to be a orphan, and Lefty's like, "Well, let me cook for you. Let me cook for you." And they talk about some pinch of salt.
And tomatoes. Punch of salt.
Punch?
Punch. Punch of salt.
Punch or pinch?
Punch. Not pinch. What did I say? I said pinch.
Nah, you said punch.
Sometimes you don't make no fucking sense, Donnie.
The whole dynamic between Pacino and Depp, I think, is like very, very well. The chemistry is so awesome in this film, Tone. Like their dialogue, the way they play off each other. And this film is supposed to be serious, but it has a lot of like comedic tones to it, which is to me is something that's another like difference from even The Godfather. The Godfather had some, I guess, comedic tones in certain areas, but this one actually, blends the lines of comedy and drama a little bit, which I really love about it.
I mean, exactly what you said, and I'm I'm a really big fan of like in movie scenes, like intimate spaces, and the you explaining the apartment when they're sitting there, and the punch of salt, empathetically, this is a
Tony froze again. But yeah, the punch of salt, and then they're explaining like how he's basically Lefty says that men are best cooks. He could be an asshole, but he also can be sympathetic. As we learned, Lefty's son is a drug addict, and it really makes Lefty depressed. And yeah, you're good now.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes Lefty depressed that his son's a drug addict. He also goes on to show a little bit more sympathetic of his character when he talks about a certain cancer he's got.
I put a bet on a horse. That horse don't do what it's supposed to do. Like every fucking thing else in my life. I got cancer of the prick. My ex-wife lives in this building. Can you believe it? I run into her in the elevator. I gotta have 3 spritzes afterwards just to calm down after I see her.
What are you talking about? Cancer of the prick?
Yeah, he's cancer of the prick. Yeah, you didn't know that? I'm in the medical books for that.
That part always cracks me up because it shows that, like you said, the sympathetic character of Lefty, he can be a real asshole, but he can also be, feel sorry for him. And he's kind of explaining like how he's basically a loser. He bets a horse. He can't afford to play Annette, who's his lover. He met his ex-wife in the same building and he had to have 3 spritzers to calm down. It just shows, how pathetic he is. And then he goes into something comedic saying, "Oh, I got cancer of the prick." Like, that's what even like Donnie Brasco was like, "What? Like, what do you got?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the medical books for that."
I love when also the drug addict's son, like he like walks out or whatever, the apartment or whatever, and he's like, "It's my fucking son. It's a fucking drug addict." Just like the way he taught, like it's really good dialogue.
Yeah, and they go, and Donnie tells him, sometimes you give him a, good shot in the mouth, a good slap in the mouth. And he's like, "I got bruises on my knuckles," meaning that he's hit him so many times it hasn't done anything. And, that comes to that the son comes to a story, a little play later on, but it's just showing the character development here. And I think that, but this is Pacino's like, Pacino of old, people would say was probably like one of the best actors of his time. And this just, you're getting glimpses of why he was considered that, I think, in this film. Like if people say Son of the Woman is probably Pacino's best role in the 90s, I think this is my favorite role of him. I know we might disagree on that, but I think the way he portrays it, it's not screaming, it's more like you said, he blends the lines of being dramatic, sympathetic, and also you could be violent but comedic.
I'll go with his performance in The Devil's Advocate as all those two. No, I'm kidding. That's my pick though, 90s pick though. But yes,
no,
he's just great. Me and buddies growing up would have this conversation between him and De Niro. And De Niro seems a lot more, I know he's got comedic roles, but he just seems a lot more serious, where Pacino can be funny. Like, I mean, but in a serious and endearing way, and he does that in this movie.
Yeah. After this transition from Donnie leaves the place, he goes to his house. And again, this is something that Pistone has said. He didn't see his family for at least 2 years while he was undercover. So every time Donnie goes to the home, it's kind of like throwing basically more of a dramatic sense to the real line story. It's blending the lines of reality and fiction. So he goes to his house and gets to a fight with his wife, Tone. I think you said he liked this part with the Christmas tree.
Me and my buddies, we'd always laugh because they just, I'm not saying it's absurd, but the way they fall into the Christmas tree, like, I mean, we're both married men and we love our wives. I mean, I have never fallen into a Christmas tree, but then again, he has been undercover for a while. I'm thinking of this in real time. Maybe if I was undercover for a long time, I would just fall into the Christmas tree. I just thought it was a really, again, it's a good, it's perfect in the movie, and Anne Heche, I think, does a really, as stated, a good job.
Yeah. In the morning, he talks to his daughters and says, "I bet you can't say 3 words for me for $20, to which one of them replies, "You lose." And this scene is actually a tribute to an urban legend of former President Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States. Coolidge was nicknamed Silent Cal and supposedly replied, "You lose," to another person who stated he made a bet that Silent Cal would not say more than 2 words to him at dinner. And he said, "You lose," which was pretty hilarious. But, it shows again that Pistone is seeing his family. They live over the bridge from where he's staying in New York, from Mulberry Street. So it's kind of a weird little dynamic. Like I said, Pistone was against
I wonder if it's in the same town as Copland.
Maybe. See, I think this is 20 years before Copland.
I know it is. I'm just kidding. But Harvey Keitel's a younger cop, in Copland,
So is Stallone.
There you go.
Stallone, and he might have his hearing in that one too. We cut to this next scene where they actually have them driving in a car. That's Donnie and Lefty. And Lefty is pissed because we find out that Carmine Galante got murdered the former boss of the Bonanno family. And the actual newspaper that he shows him is the actual newspaper headline of when Galante got killed in Brooklyn restaurant in 1979. So that's actually the photo that was taken, which I think is pretty cool. Even though it's grisly, it's pretty cool that they showed something that was actually shown back then. We learned that Lefty has been sent for, and he is very, very upset about that.
Donnie, you know, sometimes I think in that orphanage they dropped you on the fucking head.
How am I supposed to know? You don't explain it to me.
You think I don't know how a hit gets set up? You think I don't know that? You know what I know? How many times I've been on the other end of that fucking phone? 26 times.
Right, but you just got done saying you and Sonny Black are friends. So,
Donnie,
you know,
I got sent for. In our thing, you get sent for, you go in alive, you come out dead, and it's your best friend that does it.
Now that's really, really integral to the rest of the film as he explains what happens when you get sent for. You go in alive and you come out dead, and your best friend's the one that does it to you, which I thought was very interesting. I love the whole mentorship of the mob here, how he's teaching him the ropes, telling him what you got to do. And it's, again, another something we have not seen like in detail in other films.
No, I definitely agree. It's, again, the dynamic is just, that's why I believe the movie should be in, because it's a different dynamic than in most mob movies. There are not a lot of, off the top of my head, where someone as big of an actor as Pacino is playing somebody like vulnerable. You know what I mean? And being called for, I mean, this, I just immediately think of, our very first episode we did this season with Godfather, and just imagining his serious face at the end of that movie where he's like, do not ask me about, and then seeing him in this, totally different roles, which is what makes him a great actor, like you said.
Yeah, and it kind of gives him, I think the whole fact that this was a real case, it gives him more of an insight into the mob. And like the Donnie Brasco investigation is world renowned. We'll get into it later on when we get into our next segment, but it changed a lot of things in terms of the mob, the way they do investigations, even changed things for Pistone himself. So he got a lot of valuable information while doing this job. And I love the fact that they can add that into the film. And Mike Newell, the director, wanted to add that. And he actually hung out with mobsters or connected men while he was directing this film. And Pistone warned him about him, but he still did it to kind of get the feel of how he wanted this film to go. And I think he basically, hits the home run with it. Mentor, what do you say, Mentor? Go ahead.
The best is when we both hit the button at the same time, like right there. Mentor to the Mob was turned down by Jonathan Demme. That's great. That's great.
Yo, man, Jack.
Married to the Mob. Another good one by Jonathan Demme.
So we see that Lefty is getting sent for. They go to the club. They meet up with Sonny and the gang with Paulie and Nikki. Sonny's like, I got a new car. They drive. And Lefty's, he's kind of apprehensive. He's looking at his his mirror, and they're like, Lefty, what are you checking? And he's like, my lipstick. No, like trying to tell Donnie, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And they're about to go into basically the cargo area of the airport. And this is something that always cracked me up is Paulie always tells Donnie, no, you stay in the car. Where are you going? You stay in the car. Which is like, you're a peon. You can't come with us. When they walk in, they get surprised to a lion that scares the shit out of Lefty. They all make fun of him because they say, oh, you thought you were going to get whacked. And he's like, oh, everybody's like, no, but people are like, yes, you did. So he's like, Sonny tells him, this is my gift to you. I got upted. Me and Sonny Red are running the show with Rusty in the can. Rusty was a mob boss that was put in jail, and he would basically run the show from there, and had his two capos in Sonny Black and Sonny Red run the streets for him. And Sonny Black, as a show of gratitude for Lefty for taking care of his wife and kids when he was in jail, and his mistress, apparently, he got him a lion because Lefty loves animals. And this is actually a true story. Lefty did have a lion that was given to him by Sonny Black. And in New York at the time, in Brooklyn, you could see him walking the lion down Mulberry Street. When it got too big, they basically went and took the lion, they tied it up in Central Park to a tree, and they called the police so they could take it away. It ate a bunch of hamburgers, and as they show later in the film, they're feeding it burgers, and Sonny and Lefty is pissed that he got a lion instead of getting money, and he wasn't involved in the hit on Carmen Galante. which I thought was hilarious. But that is a true story. Lefty Rogerio did have a lion that he got as a gift. The next thing, Tony, and I love, like I said, the montage at the beginning was awesome. I love the montage of, the dancing of them dancing. We have the schemes that they're showing that they're doing, which shows you kind of like the inside of the mob to like 70s wave music. We have this great scene I'm putting up right now of Michael Madsen as, uh, Sonny Black dancing in the club with the girls. But, they show violence in this as well. And Mike Newell said that the point of the violence is to show that it's a terrible mess, meaning that it's not always clean like people think it is. There's a part where Sonny is beating the shit out of a guy, turns around and just shoots him when they try to pull him away. And then the next thing he's dancing. And the reason they left that in was from Pistone's recollection. Sonny Black could be the most hilarious guy. They would watch cartoons together in their underwear from, when they woke up in the morning, eating cereal on Saturday mornings, laughing like kids. But he could also be the most ruthless. And that's kind of the thing that goes with the mob. You have sociopaths in there that can change on you like, like nothing, do 180s on you.
When you showed that video, I thought you maybe got a clip from my bachelor party. That's why I was up. But no, like, because that move.
You're dancing with 2 bottles like that.
Yeah, that's I love that dance.
Yeah. A cool thing about this whole montage is Michael Imperioli, who plays Chris Montefisanti, is in it. He plays a mob guy that is basically when they're rolling out the carts from the heist. He's one of the guys rolling the carts, and he actually had a bigger part, but they cut it. But I think it's funny that he's in this film doing that. This, of course, is prior to The Sopranos. But if you remember in Goodfellas, the person who plays Big Pussy is one of the guys rolling in a cart in the beginning of the film with the furs. So both Sopranos characters had something to do with carts and heists, which I thought was pretty cool before they got their big breaks in The Sopranos. We also see in this montage, Donnie keeps all his tapes and recordings from his wire in his boot, which comes into a big play later on when they go to the Japanese restaurant. And that's where we go from here is when they go to a bar first with Sonny Red, and they're going in there to meet up with the other mobsters. And they're saying, "Oh, hello." There you can tell that Sonny Red does not respect Sonny Black. He basically makes fun of the clothes he's wearing. His gang makes fun of the clothes he's wearing. There's actually a deleted scene where they're all buying drinks and seeing who can get the biggest bottle of champagne, which Sonny Red wins with a gigantic bottle. Just to show like he's got more money than Sonny Black. Sonny Black's looked like as the blue collar member of the mob. And you could tell that Michael Madsen's character, although he smirks, it doesn't like it at all.
I like the what do you call that? The as you just stated right there, Michael Madsen, Reservoir Dogs, of course. Underrated horror movie Species. He's great in the lead in that movie. But again, I wish there was more of him in this movie. I guess they want more of Anne Heche. I want more Michael Madsen, because he just does a good job in it.
He definitely does. And then the next scene, which is when they go to the Japanese restaurant, they're telling them to take off their shoes as Japanese tradition. Of course, Donnie Brasco can't take off his shoes. He has his wire in there, to which he refuses and says that his father, his fake father, was killed in World War II in Japan, and he's not doing it because they're in a Japanese restaurant. Michael Madsen, in like the calmest voice, says, my friends are not taking off their shoes, Mr. Roboto, so either you can show us to a table or I'm gonna smack you around, which for one is very like stereotypical racist, but he says it in such a calm way that it's fucking scary. And when he said the owner refuses again to let them in, they basically grab him, throw him in the bathroom, and beat the shit out of him, to the point where Donnie tries to break them off him, and the guy hits Donnie because he's trying to protect himself, and Donnie starts beating on him. And we later see Donnie listen to the tape that was in his boot, and he starts to become, stressed out because he can't believe what he did.
Well, that's what's that the whole entire scene is just, again, you're are you coming unglued? Is this what's that to be in that situation is just, it's just crazy, and this movie does a good job showing that.
Yeah, and it shows that you're basically kind of transitioning into that other person. You play per part so much that you become that part, and it's trying to show that battle, that good versus evil that Joe Pistone's having. Uh, During this time, Joe's actually approached by the FBI to try to see if they can do some connections with a guy in Miami, another agent, to try to infiltrate the mob there as well. Pistone, of course, is a little reluctant, but he decides that maybe he should do it after this restaurant incident. They're all in the game, and I love this scene too, Tom, where they're all in the bar and they're all going over their schemes. You have the guy with but I forget what it's called, but he can't talk. He puts it to his throat. The
the voice thing, yeah.
Yeah, the voice, the little voice machine. I'm sorry, Sonny. It's just like, do you have him in there? They're going over their schemes. You have Lefty in the corner beating the shit out of a parking meter to where it's Sonny Black's like, would you cut that out? And he's like, how am I supposed to get it open? Open sesame, open sesame. It's just, they'll do anything to get money. And Pistone made sure as a consultant, he wanted to show this because everybody thinks that they have big time heists, and it really isn't like that. A lot of low level guys are either scalping tickets, they're stealing from parking meters, they're doing anything to earn a quick buck, which is the mob life's really glamorized in shows. And this kind of shows like they'll be scheming anything. And we can see that Sonny Black is getting stressed out because he needs to answer with money to Rusty. He has to kick up as tribute. And Sonny Red is basically putting him to shame in the money he's distributing. That's where Donnie will actually pitch the move to Florida, to where he is reprimanded by Lefty, who thinks he's trying to side with Sonny Black. And he says a great line when they're in the car, and he's like, if I let you go to Florida, I'm not letting you go nowhere. If you go to Florida and Sonny Black wants to take you down there, I got 2 grenades in my hand, in my house. I'll bring them out and I'll blow up all Mulberry Street and let you go. Meaning that, I spoke for you. You're on record now. I own you. And if you try to go somewhere else, I'll basically kill you and everybody else before I take you. Which is Lefty being dramatic, but is he really being dramatic? They go down to Miami. The next scene, they have a montage of them having fun in the sun. They're all playing around. You got Lefty betting the dogs. They're racing dogs. They're burying Lefty in sand. It's a real cool little transition, of a montage here. They have them playing tennis. And I think it's hilarious that Lefty is playing tennis in his suit.
Oh, yeah.
Running around, it's just a nice little, cool little thing. Then we transition to them meeting Richie, and the first meeting of Richie is in a horrible bar called King's Cove, to where he gets kind of a tongue lashing by by Lefty, and then basically Lefty gives another great monologue here.
Sonny Black belongs in Brooklyn.
Well, I guess if everything worked out, could send a few fazzoos up there, no?
Yeah. 30 years I'm busting my hump. What do I get? Even a dog gets a warm piece of the sidewalk.
Even a dog gets a...
Yeah, that's such a great line. Even a dog gets a walk. And he basically, like I said, Lefty didn't really have anything. For one, he was a compulsive gambler, and he's trying to make something out of his life in terms of the mob. Like, what do I got to show for? Everybody's moving up. He kind of has a lot of resentment towards those moving up in the mob world, while he's kind of staying stagnant, even though he feels he put in a lot of work. We then transition to, they take over the the club. They're going to meet with Salvatore Tificante, which is the real life mob leader in Florida at the time. Joe Pistone actually plays a small role in this film with Tificante's henchman. He's actually walking with him while he's talking to Lefty and asks for Sonny Black. So Joe Pistone is actually in the film. You can actually see him there. And Lefty's let down by Tificante. He basically says, anything you need, I can help you. And the first thing he asks for is like, where's Sonny Black? Meaning that he was cut out. Again, Lefty feels like he's basically, giving the shit hand again. And him and Donnie get into it on the boat, where he tells Donnie,
one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. That whole interaction, Pacino's face, the way he's like looking off into the distance, is just it's
You know where the
great.
bow is? Go to the bow of the boat. Yeah, just such depressed face. Tony, you threw up a great picture of him on
I
there.
know. I mean, it's just.
And we see more development here too from Michael Madsen's character. Now, like I said before, we find out that Lefty is kind of, I guess, outsmarted by Sonny Black, but there actually is a cut scene when they're down by the pool. Sonny Black is reading a newspaper and he sees that John Wayne dies. While he looks up, he sees Donnie and Lefty talking. Now it cuts to the scene where they go to King's Cove court, but when in the original screenplay, there's actually supposed to be a scene where Michael Madsen's character of Sonny Black confronts Donnie and actually basically strong arms him to let him know what's going on. And it shows more of the meaner side of Sonny Black. And Mike Newell, the director, said he wished he kept that in the film. You can see it in the lead scenes. It's actually a really cool scene tone for it because I know you've been talking about you want more Madsen.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have kept it in as well. So that's how we find out that Sonny Black actually found out about the whole scheme that was going to go down in Florida with King's Court. And we find out that Sonny actually tells Donnie he owns him.
Forget about it. It's like...
Oh, I don't have that one. Oh, well. Basically, Sonny Black tells Donnie that, Donnie tries to tell him, I don't want to be down here in Florida, to which Sonny Black tells him, no, you're down here. I own you. You belong to me, which is basically how it is in the mob. He's his boss. He has to do whatever he says. So they set up shop down in Florida to make money with Traficante's help. And they're all going back to New York. And on the way back to the airport, we see assistant attorney for the government come out and call Donnie Joe Pistone, to which Donnie punches him in the face. And Richie goes up to him and tells him he's working. And Donnie makes up some ridiculous claim that the dude tried to grab him and by his groin, which I thought was hilarious. What do you think of that scene, Tom?
Again, the whole interaction's ridiculous because it's like a really again, Pacino though, like again, if Pacino was just a tad bit, I think on the smart, he would have been right there. Could have been the end of it all. But a great scene. I love the scene in the movie.
Yeah, and this whole Miami trip there's so many events that happen. One of my favorite scenes is actually when he goes to meet the FBI agents. And prior to this, we see that Bruno Kirby's character of Nicky does a drug deal with the Cubans. We can only assume they're Cubans because they speak Spanish. To where he gets coke, and he sees Donnie in the same hotel as the FBI, and he goes, "Oh shit!" Like he's caught, and Donnie's like, "Oh shit, I'm caught." But in reality, they're not. We find that Donnie is boiling under the pressure. He learns that, one of his mics wasn't pick up any sound, to which he gets pissed. We see him sitting on the couch, and we see another Oscar-nominated actor ask Donnie, "What does forget about it mean?"
Forget about it. It's like, if you agree with someone, like Raquel Welch is one great piece of ass, forget about it. But then, if you disagree, like a Lincoln is better than a Cadillac, forget about it. But then, it's also like if something is the greatest thing in the world, like Minguero's peppers, forget about it, But it's also like saying go to hell, too. Hey, Bully, you got a 1-inch pecker, and Bully says, forget about it.
Forget about it. Paul, forget about it.
Paul Giamatti's character in there always cracks me up when he says that.
I also love he's sitting right there with him too, is Tim Blake Nelson from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Mhm.
Just really cool. I love movies where an actor is like just such a small role that is something that they got before they made the big time, and they do a good job. It's a good job.
Yeah, and we find out that Donnie's been trying to reach home. He can't reach home because his wife changed the number. They're going to therapy. They're having issues again. Pistone pushed back on this therapy thing. When he goes back into New York, he ignores Sonny's orders to be in therapy. Donnie Brasco's got a great ass. Is that in this film? No, but it can be, Sam. And Pistone again pushed back on the whole family aspect with a therapy thing. We find out that Lefty's son is in the hospital for an overdose. Donnie calls his house, and Lynette tells him that what happened. Donnie meets him at the hospital, and this kind of shows their bonding moment of where Lefty tells him, "You have to go back to Florida," and Donnie goes, "No, you can beat the shit out of me. I'm staying here with you." And Lefty is distraught. His son died on an operating table. His heart can't stop, and they're trying to get it going again. And basically, him and Donnie bond while they sit and wait for his son to get out of surgery. They never say what happened to him, but they Lefty's son. Sounds like a sitcom. It does, but it kind of shows like, you know, the human side of Lefty. He loves his son, even though he's bad. He still loves him, and shows that, you know, that bond that him and Donnie have. Well, they cut back to Florida and they get busted. And busted by I mean busted, they get you know, the whole club gets broken up and all the people in there are the cops come down from Florida. We find out that Sonny Red was involved in it to break up the whole club in Florida because it was a cash cow, and they all get thrown in jail.
I don't want to be stepping on. Usually, the cops are so fucking dumb. It takes them 3 months just to get wind something's going on. Then they gotta go get a bond. They gotta go. Whatever. The places with it.
Surveillance.
They got a surveillance. 3 months taking pictures. All this time. How these cops know so much? You just open the fucking doors. What are you saying? You gotta be a snitch.
And that's kind of like the whole conclusion they come to when they're in the cell. Donnie says Richie didn't play off the cops, but in reality, the others think there is a snitch, and they get embarrassed. Sonny Black says he's so embarrassed. They lose all the money there, which is, he says, is Rusty's money. They have to go back to basically New York with their tail between their legs, and somebody's going to pay for this. We see that there's some animosity between the mobsters there. We see that during a meeting when they're trying to figure out how they can make money again at the bar, Sonny Black is asking Nicky about Florida, kind of hinting that he kind of knows about that drug deal that went down, and Nicky doesn't tell him. He says nothing ever worked out in Florida. I thought we were supposed to talk about Florida. He's like, I'm asking you. Which then we get a call. Well, actually, Sonny Black gets a call from somebody that he has to sit down with Sonny Red. And we find out that the 3 mob bosses in Sonny Red's gang are actually going to try to kill Lefty and the crew with Sonny Black. They go to a spot to stop. They go inside the house, and there they basically open up mayhem to where they get the drop on Sonny Red, Sonny Black, Nicky, and Lefty all shoot all them with shotguns, pistols. We see Bruno try to protect Sonny Red to where he gets stabbed repeatedly. It's a brutal scene. While Donnie's all waiting inside the car while this is going on, and Paulie and all them are shooting him. It's just a ridiculously like gruesome scene, and it's probably like one of the more gruesome mob scenes I've seen up to this, date. To in this film of '97. What do you think, Tone?
I definitely agree. Gruesome. I like how Depp's in the car. They didn't let him inside again. Poor Depp.
Yeah, and when they go get him, this is another thing like the animosity. I don't know if it's playing for dramatization, but when they're all dead and they have to clean up everybody, Paulie is told by Sonny Black to go get Donnie to help. Now, Donnie's in the car, and Paulie just gets in the car and doesn't say anything. He just breathes really hard, and he's like, is everything okay? And he's like, what? And he just pulls a gun and puts it to the back of his head and says, get out. Which I don't know if he was just like ramped up from what just happened or what, but it made no sense. This is one of the parts that didn't make any sense to me. Like, what do you think about that whole scene?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going to find parts in these movies. I mean, that don't make sense. But again, the way it all plays out, I don't remember ever when I watched it being like, oh, this isn't out of place. I thought, fit okay. But again, who knows if something different was there.
Yeah. We then cut to Donnie actually going inside, seeing all the massacre. It's there. They're telling him they have to cut up the bodies. And unlike what was depicted in the film, Agent Joe Pistone, aka Donnie Brasco, was not actually present at the execution of the 3 Renegade Bonanno captains, Sonny Red, Big Trin, Trincella, and Philip Giacconi. Capo Dominic Napolitano, who's Sonny Black, was the one who initially proposed to then boss of the Bonanno family, Joseph Massino, to have Pistone Brasco there to participate in the slayings to get him as a soldier, but but was refused. Meaning that just shows you that Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone's aura and persona was played so well that the mob wanted him to be a real member. Massino only wanted the most trusted members to carry out the assassination. And during this, Sonny Black tells Nicky to go cut up Bruno, the big dude. And he doesn't want to do it, but he does. He reluctantly goes and says, "Come on, Donnie, I'm gonna show you how to fillet a big fuck." And at this point, Lefty comes out and shoots him in the head and kills him. And Donnie is stunned. And they show Donnie having to cut up the bodies, about to throw up, cutting through boots. And in real life, Nicky Mouse Santora, who's played by Bruno Kirby, was one of the killers, but was also not killed along with the captain. It's a false. That was more added for dramatization. After Black's murder in 1981, Santora became the new capo, as he and Massino were the ones who put out the contract on Black on behalf of the then imprisoned Philip Rusty Restellelli, who was mentioned as Rusty. But that would later be indicted with Lefty and Fat Tony for racketeering and received 15 years, but only serving 10.
I'm trying to lose weight, No, I'm just kidding. That's not about me.
Later, he became the reputed underboss of the Bonanno family from 2003 to 07, and he died in 2018. So, for those who are worried, Nicky actually lives, but they actually have a long discussion in the car, which I think is another great monologue by Pacino about not being able to say Nicky's name because he was a rat.
Say his fucking name! Nicky was a rat because Sonny Black says he was a rat. Who the fuck am I? Who am I? I'm a spoke on the wheel. So is he, and so are you.
I love that line. I'm a spoke on the wheel, and so is he, and so are you. Basically, we're nobodies. We just keep the wheel going, which is true. That's how it is in the mob. We then see that Sonny Black is now in charge. He pulls up like a big boss, and that we heard Donnie goes AWOL. The FBI agents come to his wife's house, and they tell him, Donnie hasn't checked in for weeks, and she says, "Oh, he came one time to change his sports coat." Meaning that Donnie is basically falling into that life, that whole persona. We find that Donnie's actually given a shot to be a made man. They gave him a contract, and they want him to kill Bruno. Donnie asked Lefty about a boat that he wanted, saying, "If you had a chance to get out, what would you do?" And Lefty told him he would get a boat. To which Donnie tries to go get money for that boat. We see Donnie go back to his house and talk to his wife, who says that she hid the money from him. They get into an altercation, and he slaps her. Pistone hated this scene and was furious when it got filmed. Depp and him used to drive to the set together. Depp did not talk to him that day. He said, "I figured there was something wrong because he didn't tell me anything." And when he got there, he was like, he went ballistic because if that would never happen. I would never hit my wife. He later calmed down after talking to the director and the writers, and they're like, "It's just for drama effect. We know that it's just more for a drama." He's like, "Well, this is based on my life, but I get what you're doing." Still says he hates that scene where Donnie slaps his wife. And then, we get a nice little monologue from Donnie about the mob.
You think I hate you? I don't hate you. This job is eating me alive.
And that's such like a great, nice little monologue. This movie has such great monologues in it. Would you agree, Tom?
I would definitely agree that the whole movie is just, like again, when you're talking about Pacino, Pacino's loaded with them, but then again, Depp's a good actor, and then you throw in Bruno Kirby and Michael Madsen, just loaded.
Definitely. It's just so many good, like, nice lines and dialogues in it. And, to close out the film, we go to the boat where Bruno's supposed to be. We find that Lefty tells Donnie, and they're in the car, and Lefty tells Donnie, Bruno's going to wait for him to go to sleep, and then we're going to go pop him, and you know what to do. But Lefty, before he does all this, asks Donnie if he's a rat because Lefty shows Donnie a picture of the boat they use in Florida called the Left Hand, which was used by FBI agents for a sting. And Lefty believes Donnie is a rat.
Go for you. Yeah? If ever I had any money, I'd give you. Never had any money. But if ever I had $100 in my pocket, I'd give you 50, right?
Yeah, you did.
If you're a rat.
That's him putting the gun to his head to symbolize, like, if you're a rat, I'm basically dead. And this is kind of funny for a serious scene like this, which is a great scene in the movie. Director Mike Newell recalled that the first scene that was shot between Pacino and Depp was this one. They had to shoot the scene where they discussed Lefty possibly getting out of the mob and the rat scene. During several takes, Johnny Depp would fart very loudly, ruining the scene and causing Al Pacino to become increasingly angry with him. Eventually, Depp reached under his seat and pulled out a whoopee cushion that he had been using. Pacino broke up laughing, and Newell realized it was Depp's way of breaking the ice and tension between the actors. The two stars subsequently had a close relationship and friendship for the rest of the shoot. So that's a great way to break the ice there between the two, Tone.
Sure is. I mean, I meant.
Yeah, Tony froze again. Tony got that Bridgeport internet today, guys. But moving on, Donnie is willing to jeopardize the whole operation for Lefty, meaning that he doesn't want Lefty to be locked up or killed. So he wants to give him the $300,000. It's implied he wants to give him $300,000 for Lefty to buy his boat and leave with a net. Now, Pistone has pushed back on this theory again. He said he would never jeopardize his life or his occupation for Lefty. Although he did not say he hated Lefty, he felt that Lefty was a good person, but he just made bad choices and was a criminal, and his job was to arrest criminals. So not once did he think about jeopardizing his career for that, which I think is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing about a movie like this. It's a true story, but the dramatizations, you know what I mean? There's other movies where people go undercover too, which I like those type of movies because it's truly like, how deep do you really go? Mm-hmm. And just to imagine hearing your wife or Katie or your wife being like, "Oh, I haven't seen him in 3 weeks. He only came and got his jacket." Just kind of crazy to imagine.
Yeah, and during this whole, they're trying to go up there. They're trying to get to Bruno. They have their guns in their hands, and Lefty's telling him, "Get him, Donnie, get him." And before Donnie goes to shoot Bruno, Lefty tells him, "I'm your best friend," which again triggers, "Is he going to kill me?" And the FBI busts in and they arrest all of them. And Donnie, as he's getting pulled away, says, "I'm not going in and not coming out as an FBI agent," to which he eventually has to. They go to the club to say that Donnie Brasco was a real FBI agent. They show him the pictures to all the people at the club, Sonny Black, Lefty, and Paulie, the pictures of him. And they all go outside and they say, it's all bullshit. Donnie would never be an agent, which is actually based off what the real reaction was from all the people. He was so good at portraying that character, that persona, that everybody thought he was a real mafioso, which I thought was amazing.
Did a good job doing it, yeah.
We later find out that, people are going to pay for this. People are going to go to jail. And we see Lefty watching TV, and he gets called in for a sit down. So he gets sent for. And before he leaves, he tells Annette,
"If Donnie calls, tell him it was going to be anyone. I'm glad it was him."
And then we see a cut to black with gunshots being rang out as they show Johnny Depp shooting, or Donnie shooting in his FBI uniform at a target, implying that Lefty was killed. Now, there's two things about this. One, we know that the real Lefty did not pass away. It was actually Sonny Black that got killed, and he was killed a year later by Joe Massino. The thing is, when the FBI approached Sonny Black to tell him about Donnie Brasco separately, and to tell him that they're coming after him, uh, there's photos of Sonny Black going up to feed his pigeons, and eventually he was called to a sit down and get sent for, and he knew he was going to die. And before he left, he actually gave his jewelry and money to his favorite bartender at his club.
Oh.
And then when he arrived, they said they threw him down the stairs and shot him, and he already knew what was going on. But before he left, he said, "Tell Donnie if you see him, I'm glad it was him." Him and Donnie had a real good relationship. Sonny Black, I think, was found without hands. They cut off his hands because they basically said, he touched the hand of as a sign that he touched the hand of a unmade man and brought the infiltration of the mob. But Lefty was actually on his way to get hit when the FBI picked him up and kept him in custody, and he refused to talk. He went to Omerta, and actually would end up doing time and eventually released, and actually earned respect for being in Omerta. So Lefty was a stone cold gangster to the day he died,
Awesome.
which is crazy. And to prepare for his whole gun shooting scene, Depp met with Joseph D. Pistone for several times and took shooting lessons from the FBI. One thing I thought that was crazy about the ending of this film, which is when they show Donnie Brasco getting a medal and a check, and it shows that he's kind of staring off into the outside, and his wife's telling him, "Come back, it's over." He was only given $500 for 6 years of work, which is equivalent to $1,700 today.
Not good.
Yeah, totally ridiculous. That's you got $500 for 6 years work, and everybody thinks FBI agents make a lot of money. They really don't. They make about $45K, which is not really a lot, and they have to move all over the place. But that's Donnie Brasco. Tone, what are your final thoughts?
Great movie. Again, hearing about Sonny Black, Sonny Red, always a good time. Again, great performances across the board. Not only from Pacino and Depp, but again by Bruno Kirby and everyone else. Just a great movie that I think needs to be seen.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's a forgotten mob movie of the 90s. I hope I didn't ramble on too long. Sorry about the misplaced audio there from me on some of the clips, but I didn't label them correctly when I was doing them, so that's my fault. But let's get into some let's get into some critical reception here, Tone.
You know that fat cocksucker says I look like the Shah of Iran?
Who does? Tony. I never got that at all.
So Donnie Brasco had a budget of $35 million and made a box office of $129 million worldwide. Siskel and Ebert gave Donnie Brasco 2 thumbs up on their syndicated TV show. In the print review, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 3.5 stars out of 4. The film had one of Pacino's best performances, and according to Ebert, Donnie Brasco was rare in depicting 2 men who grow to love each other within the framework of teacher-student relationship. And I think that's kind of like the mentor and the mentee. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone praised the film, saying that Donnie Brasco is one terrific movie. That's a great little line there, I guess. Nick LaSalle from the San Francisco Chronicle gave the film a positive review and said that Donnie Brasco was a first-class mafia thriller. Entertainment Weekly reserved its highest praise for Pacino. If Donnie Brasco belongs to any actor, though, it's Al Pacino. The aftermath of the Donnie Brasco case had significant and far-reaching implications for both the FBI and the mafia. Now, the impact on the mob was the evidence gathered by Pistone was he had 200 indictments and over 100 convictions of the mob. This included significant figures within the Bonanno crime family, which severely weakened them by a loss of its members and basically made a power vacuum that basically drained them out. The internal mafia turmoil also happened. The infiltration caused distrust between everybody, paranoia. I mean, they let a damn FBI guy in the mob, so of course they're going to be paranoid. And they changed how they operated. They started to change their operational methods to prevent further infiltrations. This included more rigorous vetting of new members, vetting meaning they called people. And even in Pistone's book, when he got vetted originally, he was vetted by them calling a snitch that he had the mob that was working with the FBI. So they called a snitch to vouch for him, and that's how he got kind of intertwined with everybody. But he said that he had to fight the person that challenged him to be vetted because he said if he didn't, they would know that he was a cop. So he made sure the person wasn't made and beat the shit out of him while his brother was there. The brother of this guy who broke it up and fought back for him. But yeah, they had to do a more powerful vetting. They used the increase of surveillance to detect any potential undercover agents. So they followed them around just like they thought the agents would be following them around. The impact this case had on the FBI, it increased credibility, meaning that undercover work does provide fruit, meaning it can be effective if it's done correctly. It improved the techniques, giving more insight on how you can infiltrate certain organizations. Pistone actually went on to do other undercover jobs, posing as a mafioso in international realms. It also gave legislative support, meaning the high-profile access of the operation helped garner legislative and public support for the FBI's efforts against organized crime. This led to increased funding and resources for the FBI, allowing them to expand their operations and target other criminal organizations around the world. But how did this affect Joe Pistone? Well, when he was let out, he actually had to go in to the witness protection operated under a different name because there was a $500,000 bounty that was placed on his head. And the person that pushed for this bounty was actually Lefty Ruggiero. When they went to trial and he was testifying against Lefty, Lefty came out and was screaming at him, "You're the real gangster. I'm not a gangster. You're the real turncoat." And he was telling Pacino, who was the head of the family at the time, who actually got Sonny Black murdered, we need to put a contract on his head, which Pacino agreed. And that kind of earned Lefty points too, because he's like, I'm not going to talk, but we need to take out Donnie. And there's actually some great stuff that, comes from this. Not per se the contract, but Pistone now is world renowned. He's known all over. And he said that with the publication of his book, the movie, everybody pretty much knew who he was when they recognized him. He said that he went out to the neighborhood in one of his older books just to show people around, like, oh, this is where I hung out. And he recognized a lot of people from the old neighborhood saying, Donnie, calling him Donnie. And he would say, oh, how you doing? And he said, then there was some guy who was driving by. I was like, hey, Donnie. And he's like, oh, he waved his hand like, oh, hi, how you doing? And the guy's like, fuck you, asshole. And he's like, well, I guess that's expected. He also got a bunch of consulting and speaking engagements. He actually does a podcast now. He's done podcasts with Michael Francis and Sammy the Bull on their podcast. Really good listen, great story. His books are excellent. Donnie Brasco Double Cross, which is basically him talking about the mob in general. And then he has a bunch of funny stories in there about nicknames and like schemes and whatnot that he gives his own little twist on, his spin. A lot of great stuff in there. That's basically, there is no fan theories because this is actually a true story. But this film, well, not the film, the whole investigation actually impacted not just the mob, the FBI, but also the person of Jody Pistone.
I'll throw out a fan theory. What happens if there never was a Godfather Part 3? And this is actually some alternate universe where Michael is like the one son he had. They live in a small apartment. Kay is... No, I know.
Kay is Anita.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people would love that fact because I know a lot of people that hate Godfather 3.
I know they do. That's why I brought that up.
But what do you think about all this info I just threw at you, Tom?
Again, going into the other side, with Joe and finding out his life and just the witness protection program, what that looked like, or even going back to the old town and being called Donnie Brasco, Brasco after all this time. It's just really cool to mentally close your eyes and think about. And there was a lot of that in this movie and behind the scenes and all that.
Yep, totally. There's so much to unpack in here. If you follow us on our website at sadisticpenguinstudios.com, I always drop the notes. If you want to read through them, there's so much more we can get to. There's like 11 pages of notes here. Just for like little tidbits and stuff about the film, about the case and the background of it. Check it out. Also read Pistone's book. Donnie Brasco, My Life on the Cover, which is a great book. Good stuff for him. He also has an audio version if you want to read that. I don't know who does the audio version, but it's all really, really good stuff in there. So that's our Donnie Brasco breakdown. I hope I wasn't too wordy about it, but it was a lot to get to, Tone.
It's good. Good stuff.
But with that, Tone, let's transition. We're kind of, go put a bow on this. Let's go into what's coming soon, my man.
Let's do it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. What we got coming up this next week, which we will be going back to our Sunday at 2 p.m. and we're going to go back to our old format. We're going to be talking about one Willem Dafoe. He's going to be in the brand new Nosferatu that'll be coming out this December. Just dropped that trailer, and we're going to each pick 5 movies from his career, and we're going to dig deep because, it's not William, it's Willem, and I'm sure we're going to go into that next week a little bit too. So that'll be fun.
Yes, and that'll be Sunday the 14th, right?
That is... are we... Oh, yeah, Sunday the 14th. Yes, not this weekend. The weekend after this weekend.
Yes. Okay, cool. So 2:00 Sunday the 14th, we'll be back. We're going to take the rest of this week due to the holiday off.
Yes.
To recharge. But yeah, just want to make sure. Willem Dafoe, probably another great character actor, awesome human being. If you've seen his interviews, also hilarious, dude. Just look up Spider-Man, Willem Dafoe.
So many awesome movies that I'm excited once I see yours to pick mine because there's some really cool deep cuts with Willem Dafoe. He's just awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what you pick too, because I'm gonna see if I can pick some ones that we haven't heard of.
It's gonna be good.
But, it's gonna be a good one, my man. Let's just transition, my man. Let's go straight into your
let's do it.
Soundtrack pick of the week. The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
By no ironicies tonight, I didn't even know this until we were halfway through the episode and you brought up Nightmare on Elm Street. That I picked a soundtrack tonight. That's Nightmare on Elm Street, not the one that Johnny Depp was in. This is the Freddy's Dead soundtrack. And I always remember this because, 92, 93 at the dollar store, like one of the first dollar stores I ever went to. I found the CD and my mom bought it for me. But what's really, really cool about it is the leadoff track is by the Goo Goo Dolls. Really nothing like what the Goo Goo Dolls that with their acoustic slide into my room. This is a completely different Goo Goo Dolls that's a little bit more hardcore. They even were called heavy. But the soundtrack as a whole, it's cool to go back, kind of go through and dig into something a little bit different that's got just a lot of different stuff on the soundtrack. What I also deem pretty cool is a way on top of all the cool songs by awesome artists like Iggy Pop's on the soundtrack, Johnny Law. There's like 3 or 4 Goo Goo Dolls songs, which is really cool. Fate's Warning. The whole soundtrack, which I did not know until I was doing research because I didn't get this awesome double one. I just had the one with the bands on it. But Brian May of Queen, he does all of the instrumentation for the movie, guitar player. So really awesome soundtrack. Gets never really ever talked about. Decided to talk about it tonight. Thank you.
Awesome stuff, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So I actually like that movie. I know a lot of people don't, but
honestly, it's another one. The first one that I really remember watching, because right when it came out in 92 or 93, for some reason, my mom, I had the tape of part 5, which is my least favorite one. But this soundtrack, just Goo Goo Dolls after who they became, knowing that I had this soundtrack and was like, this is who the Goo Goo Dolls are on the Freddy's Dead soundtrack. I just love saying Goo Goo Dolls and on the Freddy's Dead soundtrack because you never would guess the Goo Goo Dolls would be in the head band on the Freddy's Dead soundtrack. I just love it.
It's pretty awesome. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it was a lot to get to. We'll be going into Will Dafoe on the 14th at 2:00 for a live version of that. Be sure to check us out at statisticpenguinstudios.com. We have a lot of blogs going out. Tony's been pumping out some good stuff. I've been pumping out some good stuff. Brian had a couple drafts. He had the 2004 draft to go with his draft movies that he's been doing from the 84, 94, and now 2004 that was just done this week. Tony, you got Hook Up on Music coming up this week. What's up?
I sure do. Please tune in. Trying new and different stuff. Got a brand new intro that I've been working really hard with. I went out live and recorded all of the video footage for it. It's going to be really cool. That'll be on Wednesday at 7 p.m. That'll be dropping. I'm probably going to go really, really deep into the blues for 4th of July weekend. So please tune in. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Also check out Tony's VHS Video Hollywood Stories on YouTube. He's been doing a great job. He just did one for Loverboy, which cracked me up. But a lot of cool little stuff in there that we're just dropping. We're just trying new things, see what sticks. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're having fun. So be sure to check us out on the YouTubes. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to head over to our Twitter account. And, if you want to subscribe, no pressure to, but if you want to and you want to try for a raffle of Elden Ring, you can just take a snapshot of your subscription and put it there on our Twitter account or Instagram, send us a DM, or on Facebook, and you'll be entered into the raffle, which the drawing will be done on July 3rd. It's for PC and for Steam. Unfortunately, I don't have it for console, but it's a free copy. So if you want to, just do that. And we appreciate you guys listening. And any closing thoughts, Tone?
Very excited that we got to talk about this movie tonight. Thank you so much, man, for having another great episode.
Thank you, my man. And have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do? Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?